welcome to this bonus question and answer session here live with me. I want to say a big thank you to you, all of you who've been sending in your questions. And, I've had a lot of questions rolling in on the chat, in the group, on the replay page, in my email. So I wanted to take a little bit of time right now to address some of these. And I will say this, stick with me here because even if you don't end up joining me in my program, Quilt Design Code, the answers to some of these questions here might just help you with your journey as a creative and as a creative entrepreneur as well. So I'm going to be answering kind of like those big questions that we all have, right? About, is it worth pursuing my creativity? Can I really make money as a designer? All of those big questions that we have. But right now what I want to do is I just want to start with the basics and get those out of the way. So if one of these is your questions, then stick with me and I'll get to those shortly as well. So the basics. When does Quilt Design Code start? It starts on Monday. So that's in just a few days' time. It's starting on Monday, the 30th of October. And we are getting straight into designing. So as soon as you sign up to Quilt Design Code, as soon as you register, you will get your login to access the Quilt Design Code course portal. And in there you will find already a couple of modules available for you. Number one, you're going to get the bonus, which is the Quilt Design Deep Dive bonus. And this bonus is all about getting you started creating and getting those designs flowing so that you have some material to work with when we jump into module 1 starting on Monday. The other module you'll have access to right away is design, the design module. And this is giving you even more in-depth information and some insights into how to come up with a successful design for a quilt pattern as well. So those two things are available for you as soon as you register. You can get started literally within seconds, started working on your designs. Then how does the course work? Okay, so each Monday a new module will be released. And on each Thursday, we have a live question and answer session. So you've got a few days there to watch the lessons, implement them, come up with any questions that you do have, and join me on Thursdays at 3 p.m. Central European Time, which is 9 a.m. Eastern Time. So we start the day right out of the gate with a question and answer session, getting your questions answered. I had a couple of questions as well about the timing of the calls. If you can't make it live, please do not worry. You are not going to miss out. I have a system set up in place where you can submit your questions ahead of time and I'll still be able to answer those questions live on the call for you. And I am very efficient when it comes to getting that replay up of the live session as well. So that comes out pretty much a couple of hours after we finish up the call. I'll have the live replay will be posted in the course portal ready for you to watch. So you get your questions answered straight away. You will also know once you're in Quilt Design Code that I'm very responsive to all of my students. So if you do have a question, you can email me at any time and I will likely get back to you within the day, at least a couple of hours normally. And I oftentimes even shoot a little short video as well. So if you send me through your Illustrator file, you're having a specific problem, I can just shoot you a short video and I can answer your question right there on the spot. So you don't even need to wait until the Thursday call either. So I hope that helps answer that question. So each Monday, a new module comes out. We also have an implementation week in there as well. And this is a great spot in the middle of the course where you can just catch your breath, catch up on anything that you want to revisit or go back to. Make sure you're kind of up to date with all of the Illustrator files and videos and learnings before we move into the kind of second phase of the program, which is the writing and the selling of the quilt pattern. So that's done on purpose, so to give you a little bit of breathing room, so that happens as well. And then another thing that we do, which is a little bit of a surprise, but I'm going to let you in early on this little secret, is at the end of the program, we have a celebration call as well. It is super important to celebrate any kind of progress that you have made and just to reflect back on how far you've come. And my students are always super, super surprised at themselves of just how far that they have come in the 8 weeks of the program itself. Okay, of course you also have lifetime access to the material as long as aliride.com is functioning, and I plan that to be a very, very long time. You have access to all of the material inside Quilt Design Code as well. And of course you also have a private Quilt Design Code students only community to support you as well. And you can jump in there anytime, day or night, 24/7 and ask questions, and somebody will be there to answer those questions for you as well. All right, when does registration close? Registration is closing at midnight on Sunday. So that's Sunday, the 29th of October, so that we can get started on Monday, the 30th of October. So just in time for the end of the month, you can get started in November with a whole new plan, a whole new program ready to go. What is the cost? All right, so your investment in Quilt Design Code is $997 if you make the pay in full option. This is a saving of almost $200 on the 3-pay plan. So if you do choose to go with the 3-pay plan, you can get started today with a single payment of $397, and that's followed by 2 additional monthly payments of $397. So please contact me in case you want to ask more questions about these payment options. I really feel like the people who see the most success in my program are the ones who play full out, who really commit, who fully commit. They've got skin in the game. Oftentimes they're the people who take the full pay in full option if that's available to them, if that's possible for them. And, you know, I also think about my own experience with this as well. I remember investing in it was a pretty significant investment at the time for me. It's still a pretty significant investment in this coaching program that I was a part of. And I tell you what, I made the pay in full upfront payment, and I knew that I had skin in the game, serious skin in the game. And it meant that I showed up to every single live call. I did the work every week on all of the modules. I showed up ready to take on any of the coaches' feedback and ask them any questions that I possibly could, because I was fully committed. So that's kind of the reasoning behind the way that I do the pricing structure as well. I really feel like this incentive, this skin in the game, is honestly one of the biggest incentives to see people getting the best results that they can from the program as well. All right, having said all of that, do I offer a guarantee? Yes, absolutely. I offer a 30-day money-back guarantee. No questions asked. You don't need to prove that you've logged in. You don't need to prove to me that you've watched all the videos, you've done the homework, all those kinds of things. You can really join Quilt Design Code at no cost to you, at no risk to you, sorry. You know, I'm taking on all of the risk here. You can join, work through the course up to, I think it's module 3 in the first month of the 30 days, and then you can decide if this is the right fit for you or not. You know, I really have no doubt that once you're in the course, you're going to see how much value you're getting from the program, but I want to make sure that you have no risk in making this decision here to join me in Quilt Design Code. Do I teach Adobe Illustrator and InDesign? Yes, absolutely. We use Adobe Illustrator to design and digitize our design. That's what we do in Illustrator. We also use Illustrator to create the diagrams we need for the quilt pattern itself. And then we also move into Adobe InDesign, where we use that part of the program to lay out our quilt pattern, create that professional, high quality PDF document, this digital asset that you have, which is part of your online business, your creative business, that you're then going to go on and sell. So I teach all of the things that you need to know, from how do I install it to how do I use some of the tools that we need to know to design our quilt blocks in, all of the things that you need to know to be able to complete the quilt pattern design, the quilt pattern diagrams, the assembly diagrams, the block assembly diagrams, all of the things that you need to know in Adobe Illustrator, and all of the things you need to know for Adobe InDesign to create that professional PDF document. And as I'll mention here as well, one of the bonuses for joining Quilt Design Code is actually a plug and play template for your quilt pattern. So you can jump in, you can have all of those videos there on demand for you to watch for InDesign, learn how to create your own template if you like, or if you want to take a shortcut, you can use the plug and play template that's available to you as well. So there's kind of like 2 options there as well. Do I need Adobe Illustrator? Well, yes, the short answer is yes. I teach this course using Adobe Illustrator. This is the software package to design your quilt pattern, like I mentioned, create those diagrams, the cutting layouts, and everything else. And as I mentioned, I also teach InDesign as well, which is this companion layout software which helps you to create that professional PDF document. I really get granular with these programs, okay? I walk you through from subscribing to downloading to installing Adobe Creative Cloud, which is the whole overarching structure that includes Illustrator and InDesign. And, I will mention as well here that sometimes people really kind of balk at the cost of the Adobe package. They think, oh, but there's other free options out there, etc., etc. There's a couple of things that I'm going to say here. Adobe Illustrator and Adobe InDesign are the industry standard software. These are the right tool for the job. Yes, you can do this with other tools. Yes, you have to piecemeal them all together. No, they're not as powerful as Adobe Illustrator and Adobe InDesign. That's why there's a reason why I've chosen these two tools as the software that I use for my professional business. Something else that I mentioned here as well is, like learning this software package, this is an investment in a hard skill, okay? This is a software package that's industry standard, okay? It's not just used by quilt pattern writers, it's used by graphic designers, photographers, artists, surface designers, you name it. This is something that if you say, oh yeah, I know how to use Adobe Illustrator, people know what you're talking about. Not like when you say, I know how to use EQ8 and people are like, what's EQ8? Quilters might understand that, but people outside of quilting might not understand that. So that's what I mean when it's a hard skill. It's this kind of skill that you can use and you can imply not just in the quilting arena, but also outside of that as well. Okay, so yeah, that's something else that I mentioned here as well. I saw a job advertisement for Missouri Star Quilt Company as well. This is one of the biggest in the business, right? You've heard of Missouri Star Quilt Company, I'm sure. And they advertised for a quilt pattern writer for their team as well. And what do you think one of the requirements was for joining their team? Of course, it was knowledge of the Adobe package. So you can see that this is really an industry recognized software. It's really something that is going to set you up for having skills beyond just using it for quilt pattern writing and a lot of other areas as well. So think about this more as an investment in this skill set. You can leverage this well beyond this program and even well beyond the realm of quilt pattern writing as well. Something else that I mentioned here as well, this is an investment in your creative business. This is the turning point where, you stop treating this as your hobby and you start treating yourself as a professional. This is your profession. So if that mindset shift happens, that's when you start to see these changes. You start to see things happening. And I would just ask you, would you skimp on the legitimate products, the software that you need for any other job? Probably not, right? So this is that point where you shift in that mindset from, I'm treating myself as a professional. My work is worth investing in, the right tools for the job. I'm worth investing in. This is worth investing in. So that's the kind of let me try that again. That's the kind of mindset shift that you need to kind of go towards as you start to become a creative entrepreneur and you start to grow a creative business as well. I will also mention that Adobe offers very generous discounts for first-time subscribers, for new users for their first year, in addition to a 7-day free trial as well. And I will mention that if you don't see an advertised discount on the Adobe website in your country, I really suggest contacting their customer support and asking them what discounts they can offer. They're very generous in honoring discounts to new users. And you know what? If you don't ask, they can't say yes, right? So just get in touch with them and ask about any discounts that they might offer. Okay, just the last couple of things here on kind of the tech. What kind of a computer do I need? You will need either a laptop or a desktop computer that has the system requirements that are specified by Adobe. You can use Mac, you can use Windows, whatever kind of system you like, but they need to have the minimum specifications that will allow you to run these software programs. So you can go to the FAQ section on the link that's on screen right now, aliride.com/quilt design code. If you scroll down to the bottom of that page, there's an FAQ section, a frequently asked questions section. And in there, you will find the link to the Adobe system requirements, or you can Google it, Adobe system requirements. And that will give you a list of all of the hardware requirements for your computer or your laptop that will allow you to run these programs. If the tech is holding you back, I would say to you, can you borrow a computer? Is there a local library that might offer like a loan of a computer? Is there a local service in your area that offers computers for loan or for hire? Do you have a friend or somebody in your family who might be able to loan you a computer for a period of time? That's something that I really think is undervalued in a lot of people is their resourcefulness. You know, don't underestimate your resourcefulness. If this is something that you're truly passionate about doing and you're truly committed to doing, you can make it happen. You will find a way. I guarantee it. Alison is a student of mine. She came to me. She didn't have the right laptop. She didn't have a laptop that was compatible. She asked around and it turned out that a friend of her dad's was able to lend her a computer, and she's still got it now. You know, months after the course, this very generous person has allowed her to continue to grow her creative business using this loaned laptop. So, you know, ask around, be resourceful. I trust that you're resourceful, so I'm sure that you will be able to find a way. I will say as well, you know, when I first learned Illustrator, I did it on an old laptop with an outdated version of the software, even though the program that I was following, the course that I was following was using a more up-to-date version of Adobe Illustrator. I was still able to get by on the older version of Adobe Illustrator and find out, you know, there were just some small differences between the videos, and that was about it. So, you know, like I mentioned, I really believe in your resourcefulness. If it's something you're committed to achieving, then, you know, I really have no doubt in your resourcefulness to be able to find a way to get the tech you need to enable you to do this. Okay, a couple more questions here on these nitty-gritty questions. How much time will I need? Inside the program, there are between 1.5 to 2 hours of video content for each module. So they come out on a Monday. Then there's the 1 hour live question and answer call each week as well. So let's say there's 3 hours of actual content and interaction. And then you are going to need some time to implement all of this as well. And I would say a minimum of 1 to 2 hours, depending on your proficiency with the Adobe software, so Illustrator and InDesign. So let's talk about a minimum of, say, 5 hours commitment a week. I will also mention again here that there is that implementation week in the schedule as well, so you have time to take action on what you're learning in Quilt Design Code. You are also going to have lifetime access to the material. After this live component of the course is over, you can go back and revisit that material as often as you want after the course finishes as well. And 5 hours commitment a week, let's just think about that. That's an hour a day between Monday and Friday, or it's a couple of hours on a Saturday and a Sunday. So it's not kind of like a university course where you have to stop everything that you're doing and go to a place for 8 hours a day and sit there and bury your head in some books in a library. You know, this is workable, this is doable around your schedule as well. Okay, so these are all those kind of practical questions, and I wanted to just get a little bit expansive here for a little moment. You know, is Quilt Design Code for me? Quilt Design Code is for you if you have this passion for design and quilting, you are ready to take your hobby to that next level, you want to start to grow a creative business. This is not a program for people who want to exclusively sell quilt patterns, you know, not necessarily anyway. You've heard from some stories from some of my alumni. They're doing all sorts of things since they've joined Quilt Design Code. These skills, these mindset shifts you're going to make here can propel you in many different directions. And it's incredible to me to see all of the different directions that my alumni from Quilt Design Code have gone on to do. You know, Tracy's running a Pantograph membership. Joe is editing a creative online magazine. Alison's releasing her quilt patterns. Claire's releasing quilt patterns. Lisa is running some retreats and workshops. You know, people are doing all kinds of different things. So not only are you going to learn these skills to design and write quilt patterns, you're also going to learn these business mindset and business skills that you're going to need to grow a creative business in the quilting space, in a creative space as well. You're going to discover, you know, how to design those unique quilt designs. You're going to go deep on your design work. You're going to get all of those steps to write and publish the quilt pattern, and you're going to have those next steps for marketing and launching your quilt pattern as well. All right, something else that I hear from a lot of people too is, you know, I am not an experienced quilter. And this is going to sound a bit strange, but I would argue that it's almost better not to be an experienced quilter. And here's why. You know, think for a moment of all those quilters out there. And I mentioned this yesterday on lesson 3 as well. You know, there's something like 20 million quilters, right? Think about how many of them are beginners, how many are intermediate, and how many are advanced. And in any market, really what you'll find is that in any group of people, there are always going to be more beginners than advanced people. Why is that? Well, there's always people trying things out, right? Starting new things, finding this amazing community and getting drawn in by quilting. But not all of them stick with it and become quilters of 20 plus years experience, right? So there will always be more beginner quilters than there will be advanced or experienced quilters. So that's one aspect to it. The second aspect to this, I'm not an experienced quilter, I can't really write quilt patterns. The second aspect to this is being that less experienced quilter, being a beginner quilter yourself. When it comes to writing your quilt patterns, you're in a better position almost than most experienced quilters. And why is that? Because you're in this with the beginner quilters. You have that beginner's mindset still. You remember what it's like being a beginner, where you get to the end of the pattern and they say, create the quilt sandwich, bind it, quilt it and bind it, and your quilt's finished. And you're going, wait, what? Now I have to go and find out all of this other information that I have no idea about. Whereas if you're a beginner quilt pattern writer, like Claire is one of my students as well from Quilt Design Code, Claire got really frustrated by that. And Deb's another example of this as well. She gets really frustrated by those patterns that just assume you know all of this stuff that you need to do. So Deb and Claire both very intentionally sat down and wrote a whole series of specific steps to complete your quilt pattern. Another example is Melanie as well. Melanie just completed a foundation paper pieced pattern, and she wanted to make sure that her beginners knew exactly how to do foundation paper piecing. So she actually created, like a step-by-step beginner's guide to foundation paper piecing, which she's going to include as part of her quilt pattern. So that's an extra something that she can then say, if you buy my quilt pattern, you're also going to get all of these foundation paper piecing insights that I put together for you as well. So being a beginner almost gives you a leg up to writing beginner quilt patterns as well, because you're writing those quilt patterns for beginners as a beginner quilter, for beginners by beginners. And I think that's really powerful, because you are in that phase where you honestly remember all of those things that frustrated you about beginning. Whereas somebody who's a more experienced quilter, they may have forgotten some of those things that they now kind of assume or take for granted that other people might know about quilting as well. And by no means am I saying that if you're a more experienced quilter, you're at a disadvantage, only that as a beginner quilter, you also have this opportunity to leverage your position as a beginner as well. Okay, so I mentioned Deb and I mentioned Melanie, and I also mentioned Claire as well. I wanted to mention Maura too. She's another one of my students who came into Quilt Design Code. She had practically zero quilting experience. She had some sewing experience, but limited quilting knowledge. And she came up with her design, and really through experimentation and learning, she sewed her quilt, and all of that experience that she gained by learning, she was able to include that into her pattern for beginners as well. And her perspective as a beginner, it really helped her to create that pattern that other beginners would be able to recreate as well. So coming back to our economics lesson before, the majority of people are beginners. The largest slice of the market is beginners. If you end up writing and marketing an advanced quilt pattern, you're going to be marketing to a much smaller slice of the market. So a beginner quilter is not a disadvantage for you for these two reasons. You remember things you need to teach other beginners because they're still fresh for you, and you're going to be creating more beginner-friendly quilt patterns. Therefore, you're going to appeal to a larger slice of that market and have an opportunity to sell more of your quilt patterns. Okay, so that's that kind of, am I experienced enough as a quilter kind of a question. Something else that people talk to me a lot about as well is they say things like, oh, my designs aren't unique, or they're not original enough. Let's just go super wide here for a minute, okay? Is there really any original design left to make in the history of human existence? I just came back from a trip with my mom. We were down in Emilia-Romagna, just the province a little bit south of where I live. And we visited this church that was painted in the 13th century, so 1200, right? That's 800 years ago. Guess what there was painted on the ceiling of this church from 800 years ago? Things that look exactly like quilt blocks that you see right now. So you know what? Things have been done before, and that's okay, Things haven't been done by you. You have this unique combination of life experiences, of your own influences, the things that you like and the things that you don't like. So even though you're not coming up with something original necessarily, you're coming up with something that's from your own perspective in this time and place right now. Whatever you make or create or design, it's going to be different from whatever I make or create or design, because our inputs have been different, okay? While your idea may not be original, it doesn't need to be, you creating it at this time and place is, and the people that you come into contact with may very well have never seen something like what you're creating. You have your own perspective on half square triangles or color or design. And it's really less important to be original than it is to be true to your style, you know, to your design eye, to your design perspective. Because someone out there right now, they're looking for a quilt pattern. They haven't found it yet. They're still looking for that exact right quilt pattern. You might have even been in this position yourself, you know, they're scrolling, looking for that exact right quilt pattern and you just can't find it. So you have to tweak somebody else's pattern, etc., etc. I've heard that from a lot of people. That's why they get into quilt pattern designing, because they just can't quite find that exact right pattern. So what would happen if they came across your quilt pattern and bam, you know, hallelujah, this is the one, the perfect pattern for their needs, this eureka moment. What would happen if you never published your quilt pattern? That person was looking for that design that only you can create with your unique design perspective. They're never going to find it unless you publish it. So, you know, don't get hung up on this originality idea. Just let that slide. It's far more important to think about how what you can create can help somebody else. Whether that's help you or your family or some stranger on the internet who's stuck because they're struggling to find what it is that they need to make. Okay. I was talking recently to another one of my students, Frances. She talked to me about a quilt she wants to make for her daughter-in-law's 50th birthday. Now, Frances knows that her aesthetic is totally different to her daughter's, but she's creating her own design specifically for her daughter-in-law. You know, Frances is lucky. She's making that specific design. She is able to come up with that design and translate it into a quilt pattern for herself. But there are plenty of beginner quilters out there who aren't where you are yet. They don't think they can design their own quilt. They need to find that pattern, and that's where you come in. You can help these people express exactly what it is that they want to express creatively. And, you know, just imagine what that would feel like, seeing that satisfaction that you can bring to somebody else through your quilt pattern. All right, another big question. I'm going to wrap up shortly here. Can you really make money selling quilt patterns? You know, is there room for me in this market? So I've touched on a couple of things here which are going to help answer this question. One of them is, you know, there are a lot of quilters. There are 20 million active quilters by some counts. A large portion of these people are beginners looking for quilt patterns they can build their skills with, right? They're looking to build their quilting skills. They want to learn more things. We talked about this in a couple of the lessons in this workshop as well. You know, the quilting market is worth around $3 billion. It's projected to grow to over $5 billion in the next couple of years. On average, quilters are spending over $3,000 a year on quilting, and they're working on 10 to 12 quilt projects a year. So 10 to 12 quilt projects a year per 20 million quilters. That's a lot of quilt patterns. There is room for you, and you know this as well. You know, people are always looking for something, right? They're always out there looking for something else. So yes, there is a market, absolutely. What about scaling this even further? Okay, what other opportunities are there beyond selling quilt patterns that you've designed and written? You learn a skill like quilt pattern writing. Can you then become a technical editor and start charging for revising other people's patterns? There's income that as well. You know, there's going rates for $40, $50, $60 an hour and up. What about selling kits to make your own quilt pattern? What about courses and classes teaching your pattern to other people? What about creating notions, you know, like templates or special tools that you need to create your pattern? Can you see how this element, this having quilt patterns for sale, this is kind of almost like a keystone building block to grow an entire creative business from, right? It's a starting point. I mean, how many of you are surface pattern designers as well? There are plenty of surface designers who get in touch with me because they would like to design quilt patterns to showcase their fabric designs. You want to create a fabric collection? Well, you can surely see the value of having a product like a quilt pattern that's going to help you promote your fabric collection as well to the public, but also to potential licensees, right? Art directors, they want to showcase your fabric collection, and you already have a ready-made means of promoting your fabric collection via quilt-alongs, the mock-ups you can make, lookbooks, the quilt patterns that you're coming up with. So having that additional marketing tool when you pitch to a fabric company, this is a really powerful motivation to look at your work over somebody else's, for example. They're going to see you, you're going to stand out from the crowd versus somebody else. All right, another question is as well, this is not really a question, this is a comment rather that a lot of people make to me as well. I don't have the time. I don't have the time for this right now. I don't have time. I don't have the time. This is something that I hear a lot. And what I would really like to ask you is, Is this important enough to make time for? Because when you hear somebody say, I don't have time, normally that means it's not important enough for them to make time for. I remember saying things like that before I had children. You know, oh, I don't have time, I'm busy, I've got this, and things on. Then I had kids, and you know, your time shrinks even more, right? The available time shrinks even more. Or maybe you have other, you know, commitments that you have, whether that's to your spouse, maybe you're caring for parents, maybe you have pets that take up a lot of your time as well. You know, you need to really think about, is this important enough for me to make time for? You need to make that decision to make the time to do this. What would it look like if you did less of something else? What would it look like if instead of scrolling on social media for 2 hours a day, you spent that 2 hours learning how to write quilt patterns, learning how to use Adobe Illustrator? What would it look like instead of watching 4 episodes of a Netflix series, let's say they're half an hour each, that's 2 hours a day where you could be spending that time learning a skill that's going to help you to grow your creative business. You have to do the work, sure, but I'm going to give you that step by step. And really it comes down to that decision making again. You know, is this important enough for me to make time for? Where can I find the time to do this? And if it's important enough for you to make time for, you will absolutely find the time to do it. Something else that people, I think, worry about is, what will my family say? Okay. Some of you might be struggling thinking about, you know, what your spouse is going to say, what your husband or your partner or your family might say. Well, here's something that might help you. If your partner knew, or maybe they do know, if your partner knew how passionate you are about making this happen, that you have this plan, that you have this step-by-step course lined up, and you know you're committed to making it happen, and you say to them, look, here's my plan. I'm going to do this course, and then my next steps are to launch my quilt pattern, and my next step is to create another quilt pattern after that, and then launch that again. Here's the plan that I have. This is something that I'm committed to making happen, and I have a plan for getting a return on my investment for this program. Then this is not really about asking for permission. It's not really asking for approval. What it is asking for the support to help you make this plan of yours a reality. That's kind of the shift to make here. And probably really some of the best advice that I've received since becoming an entrepreneur was from my husband, who's not an entrepreneur. I was discussing investing in this online program, like this one with him, you know, and I was worried because it seemed like a lot of money and I wasn't sure if I had the time. And you know what he said to me? He said, this is an investment in your business. You're not spending this money. You're not just, you know, putting it out there into the world. You're investing it. And that means that you have a plan to get this return on your money. You know, an investment means that you have a way to make a return on your money. I'm not asking you to pay for like a one and done technique class, for example. What I'm doing here is I'm asking you to make an investment in your creative business as well. I'm giving you that opportunity to learn a set of skills, by which means you can make your investment back again. So instead of thinking about this as like a sunk cost or an outlay and nothing's coming back again, this is an investment in the future of your creative business. That's that kind of mindset shift that we've been talking about, of going from, you know, somebody who's not thinking about their passion as a professional possibility to somebody who is, you know, committed to taking that action, putting in the work, showing up consistently and making this work. All right, last couple here. This is probably the last one, and then I'm going to sign off and let you go about your decision making for how you want to go about taking action and moving forward with your big dreams of becoming a quilt pattern designer. I need to think about it. This is something else that I get a lot from people too. I need to think about it. Well, the best person to get data from is right here. You know, we know what happens. Life gets in the way. You think you're going to come back to this. What are your questions? Send them to me. You can drop them in the chat here. You can send me an email on the bottom of the allyride.com/quilt design code QDC page that you can see on your screen right now. You can go there. There's a big button down the bottom that says ask me a question. There's my little face on there as well. Click on that and you can send through a note and I will get back to you with a personalized answer to your question. It's literally me on a video like this answering your question in a short video message to you. So if you have questions, please ask them now. This is your best opportunity to get the answers to the questions that you have. I'm the one with the data. I can help you make these decisions by giving you the answers to the questions that you might have. You know, I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't think that I could get results for you, because I know what your life is going to look like when you get here. And I'm cheering you on to make the best decision for you. You've probably heard this before. This is one of those kind of classic quotes that goes around from time to time. The best time to plant a tree was 50 years ago, but the second best time is right now. Plant that seed, get started on this, take that action, start moving forward towards those goals that you have around your creativity, around growing your creative business, around the goals and the dreams that you have for your life. I am super looking forward to welcoming you into Quilt Design Code. Head to aliride.com/QDC. The link is here on your screen. Go there to register, to find out more information. You don't have very long to make this decision. I'm closing registration, as I mentioned, on Sunday night. Will I see you inside Quilt Design Code with all of the other students who have already committed to showing up for their creative dreams? The others who have already said yes to taking action, who are already sending me their designs that they're all fired up about. Head to aliride.com/QDC and register, and I will see you inside Quilt Design Code. And I can't wait to work with you towards making your creative business dreams a reality. Thanks for joining me here, and I look forward to seeing you again really soon. Bye for now.